Hello, my name is John Turner. I work at the Nebraska Investment Finance Authority. Today we're featuring a webinar, an interview on the CARES Act. The Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, also known as the CARES Act, is a $2.2 trillion economic stimulus bill passed by Congress and signed into law by President Trump on March 27th, 2020. In response to the economic fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic. NIFA is conducting interviews with Nebraska agencies who are the recipients of this funding and who are providing housing resources. Some programs are required to allocate all funding by December 30th of 2020, while others have 2 years to allocate funds. Understanding the timing of this funding and the numerous people in Nebraska that need help, NIFA wants to share these valuable resources via our social media platforms. So today we are joined by Matthew Cavanaugh, the Executive Director of Nebraska Housing Developers Association, to talk about a new program that provides rental and mortgage assistance. So welcome, Matthew. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thanks, John. So I'll go ahead and give you the background. I'm Matthew Cavanaugh, Executive Director of the Nebraska Housing Developers Association. We're a membership organization with members all across the state of Nebraska and some from states outside Nebraska, all that work with a common interest to champion affordable housing in Nebraska. So we have for-profit and nonprofit housing developers, local governments, planning agencies, and all kinds of different entities that are involved in trying to support the development and maintenance of affordable housing in Nebraska. So we, to that end, in order to support our members, many of whom are housing providers, many of whom are service providers, and many are communities, we thought it would be important to help ensure that there are resources available to help folks pay rent and mortgages throughout this pandemic period and the attending economic recession that we're experiencing right now. So we applied for a grant to the state of Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services to receive CARES Act funds, as you described, to help pay folks rent and mortgage if they've been impacted by the coronavirus. We were fortunate enough to receive a grant that allows us to give out $150,000 in assistance between the award date, which was at the end of summer, through December 30th, as you said. So all of these funds have to be more or less allocated before the end of this calendar year. So we're working hard to find folks in need and get that money out the door to help maintain housing, prevent evictions and default on mortgages and foreclosures. So that's where we're at, and it's been quite an experience. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it and the successes and challenges and the need that we've identified. So,
yeah,
I'm happy to answer whatever questions you got.
Sure, no, that's great. And I think you and other agencies probably have expanded services. This might not be in your normal scope of work, but it's like you saw an issue and wanted to provide a resource. And NIFA is kind of in the process now of trying to collect as much information as we can to help support the resources that are out there so people know about it. So you kicked this off in September? Is that when this started?
Yeah, so we were awarded our grant. I think we may have gotten our award letter right at the end of July or early August. And then that was the period of time where we were figuring out what's the eligibility going to be. Everybody is certainly running full steam ahead and trying to do things as quickly as possible, but also learning a lot of new programs and guidelines, like you said. So we did get our assessment. We created an online assessment, a portal through which folks can apply and upload all of the application information that we need. And that was posted online. I think that was maybe September 9th. We got that up online and had our first applicant walk through. So yeah, but we had really got kind of kicked off the program and started notifying our members and our networks that we were going to have it available a little bit earlier than that. But I think we probably processed our first payment that the first or second week of September. And
Okay.
Have been going full steam ever since then.
So if somebody wants the assistance, the best way is to get on the website or
Yeah,
call,
you can.
or
housingdevelopers.org, and that's probably the best way. So we recognize that a lot of certain folks don't have access or comfort with the internet, and of course you can always contact us again through email, which may not be the best again for folks, but info@housingdevelopers.org it would be a good way to get to contact us. Otherwise, you can just give me a call. My direct number in the office is 402-435-0315. And so that if somebody's not familiar or comfortable with doing things online, we can certainly walk them through it and find another way to select the documentation necessary that works for them. So, but the website is definitely the best and simplest way to go about getting an application submitted.
okay, and that was housingdevelopers.org.
That's right. Yep. Developers. Yes.
Developers. Okay. Got it.
Yep.
And let me think, what would be something somebody else might want to know?
How much?
Yeah, how much? Is there a limit to the amount of funding that somebody can receive?
Yep, exactly. So we have, originally in our application, we applied to be able to provide either 3 months of assistance or $3,000. And quickly learned that those were insufficient amounts, especially because it took us until September to get this stood up. So months that are eligible for assistance, we can provide rental or mortgage payment for the months of April forward. So if you were delinquent for January, February, March rent, then we're not able to help you with those. If those have been hanging over your head ever since, unfortunately, we're not able to help pay off that rent. But anything from April on, we can assist you with. But as I said, originally our goal was to provide up to $3,000 and or 3 months of assistance, and we realized that we got off the ground, and even in September, people were already 4 months delinquent and had rental payments and late fees that are larger than that exceeded $3,000. So we did get an exemption or a revision from DHHS that now allows us to provide a larger amount of assistance. Right now, we're capping it at $6,000 of assistance.
Okay.
So we have, to this date, we have provided the average rental assistance payment is about $1,700. So it still is well within that original limit. It's just that there are many circumstances, a few exceptions, where a much higher payment over $3,000 is needed. The mortgages are typically a lot larger, and so the average mortgage assistance payment we have made is nearly $5,000. It's about $4,900 is the average mortgage payment we have paid so far. The vast majority of the assistance we've given out has been rental assistance. We have done, I want to say right now we've only done maybe 8 households for mortgages, and we have done nearly 40 households for rental. I think about 37 as of this morning. So we're doing a lot more rentals, and we're sort of trying to prioritize based off of the need and the immediacy of assistance and people's risk of losing their housing if it isn't applied, and that's just typically a situation that's more prevalent for renters. So,
sure. Is there an income limit for the households that ask for assistance?
Yeah. So we are, again, in our application, we targeted a limit of 120% of the AMI, and that's we're looking to target that for your pre-COVID income. So as you can imagine, there are really two major criteria to be eligible, and those are that you are experiencing financial hardship that is the result of the coronavirus, and that you are at risk of losing your housing if there's not an intervention. So with that first criteria being required, of course, many people qualify with their post-COVID impacted income, but we're looking at what was your income before March, before whatever the circumstances that happened, whether it be loss of hours or loss of employment. And that can be provided with your 2019 tax return or some of that payment documentation from earlier in the year if you still have that available. So pay stubs from February, March, that kind of thing. Their bank statements. Those can all be used to document your pre-COVID impact to demonstrate that you are still eligible. So it's we've had a lot of people who are surprised that we do serve that high of an income, but we've seen an important need for it. And just had a conversation this morning with one applicant who was curious if her daughter would apply, and she said her daughter never qualifies for any kind of financial assistance of any kind because she's at a higher income. And I said, well, this is sort of an unprecedented program in unprecedented times, so we are targeting a much higher income than folks might typically expect. So because the impacts from the coronavirus are much broader reaching than those communities are usually people who are more commonly impacted by housing burden and housing costs. I think it's important that we make it available to a wider selection of people.
Yeah, well, that's great, and it's such a great resource. And in my experience, I haven't seen a lot of programs help with mortgage assistance, so that's kind of a very nice added bonus this time around. Not that it's horrible that people need it, but it's nice that there's some resources that cover it, and to go up to that limit of income is a lot higher too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we did want to make it broader, and we wanted to include mortgages because we knew that was going to be an underserved population, and it really is important to maintain that folks don't get too far behind on their mortgages. Well, there are a lot of other assistance out there. A lot of mortgage companies and mortgage providers are offering forbearance and making accommodations that missed payments can be added on to the end of the mortgage as opposed to being collected all at once in a lump sum when the forbearance ends. And so there are a lot more protections out there for mortgage holders and homeowners. But we do still need to, when they don't have an alternative, make a resource available so that folks don't get too far behind and lose that house and all the investment that they've made into it. It's a little trickier in terms of administering the mortgage payment. One of the requirements of the CARES Act funds is that we cannot pay taxes. And of course, for the vast majority of folks, when you make your mortgage payment, you also make your escrow payment, which includes your taxes and your. So we need to pull that portion out when we pay the mortgage with the CARES Act funds and ensure that we're really only paying that house payment, that principal and interest on your mortgage cost. So there's a little bit of splicing and figuring out, though it's usually those mortgage documents are pretty clear cut on what's going to escrow and what's going to your housing cost. So that's been easy enough to do at this point, but it's just an extra step of administration that we have to follow in order to stay compliant with this federal grant.
Yeah. Well, I'm impressed that you've stood this program up in such a short period of time and already sound like you've got it streamlined pretty well. I mean, it was a whirlwind, so great job adapting.
Thank you. Well, I have to credit Amber Marker and our staff, and she's really spearheading this work, and it's challenging both from an administrative side, and I think it just for everybody right now, I think we need to operate with a level of compassion, even as a program administrator for Amber, reading through 100 people's stories about the challenge of being able to not being able to make their rent payment every month. That takes a toll. So it's a hard thing for somebody to have to push through every single day. So I appreciate her and her work on this.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I think that pretty much covers the program. We do appreciate you doing this, and like I said, we're going to be doing more interviews. The goal is to get the word out, to help promote Matthew and Nebraska Housing Developers Association's program, get the word out to people, and we'll put it on our social media and spread it far and wide. So thank you.
Yep, far. We are statewide, so we are not just Omaha and Lincoln. We're everywhere. already received applications from 20 communities across the state. It still is heavily weighted towards Omaha and Lincoln, where we've seen the vast majority of our applicants, and in other communities in eastern Nebraska. But yeah, spread it to the, I know NIFA's got a strong network all across the state, and we have assistance available for everyone in every community.
Okay, very good. Statewide program. Well, thanks a lot, Matthew. Anything else we want to cover today?
I think that's it. Thank you, John, for the work you guys are doing, and this is great to spread the word. That's what folks need to know, not only that resources are available, but also that there's a great deal of need out there. And we're going to need more resources as this continues on. So,
yeah, very much so. Okay.